it's incredible. For a while there, it felt like the Lakers weren't going to have much of a chance at it because when all this stuff was happening during February, it was like, what's the rush? Why take this deal until you know what's going on with Boston, you know what's going on with New York? But as word started trickling out the previous couple of weeks, it was like, wait a minute, LA's going to be back in on this thing, and part of it is because we knew Kyrie was going to leave, and now we know it's certainly he's certainly going to leave. So that changed Boston's motivation because Boston trading for Anthony Davis was about trying to keep Kyrie as much as it was just getting Davis.
Yeah.
So once Kyrie's out, there's no way they could move Tatum and a bunch of stuff for AD, knowing that AD was basically I talked to people about it. And they're like, Boston better not trade for him. They better not trade for him because he's out of there. And then the Knicks were even a little lukewarm, right? They were a little scared off from what I'd heard about it being a rental for even the Knicks. So add all those things up, and you go, okay, wait a minute. How many of these picks are coming in? Because at first I didn't see all the pick swaps. I'm like, they did that one, and they did this unprotected pick swap. And so part of me wonders, like, wouldn't there have been a point where Pelinka could have said, this is it? And Griff still would have said yes? Like, did Griff really want to go back into the season with Anthony Davis? Like, who was Pelinka bidding against? So that's actually, to take the longest way ever to answer it, I really do like the trade for both teams. I think Griff was in a really tough spot, and he maximized the assets really as much as he could, considering there wasn't really a ton of leverage out there. And yet the Lakers end up with a guy I think is one of the three best players in the NBA, who is even better this year, but it's lost in the drama of the season how incredible Davis is playing. He's 26. He actually wants to be with LeBron, which is a shorter list more and more. And I think there's a way you could look at this trade, too, from just a player standpoint and go, I kind of like Lonzo, and Ingram, has moments, but there's also a version of it where in 2 years you go, none of those players really worked out. And the real big piece was maybe the fourth pick, or maybe that doesn't work out. So there's an ending of this where it ends up being a disaster for the Lakers years and years from now, which I think is irresponsible. But there's also a version of this where the Pelicans go, the front-loaded pieces, and it didn't really even amount to anything. You gave up one of the three best players, which, again, they had to. So the trade made a lot of sense for both sides. Bit of a high price.
If you're making decisions for New Orleans, do you stay at 4 tonight or do you deal it?
I like Garland. I've liked Garland since I started watching him, and the way I do my draft stuff is I don't have time to do it year-round. I'd rather just do that, but I can't. And so a week or so ago, when I watched his 4 games before he got hurt in the 5th game, I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, why aren't more people talking about this guy? Reach out to a couple different teams. Teams still seem to be a little lukewarm on him, but I think he's that kind of dude. He does things at 18 because his dad plays in the NBA for a bunch of years. That is really, it's amazing to me the way he kind of understands different things with angles, the way he drives, the way he keeps defender off him, the way he can shoot. His handle's going to be one of the best handles in the NBA. So I'm not saying he's perfect, but in this draft, I think he's the 4th guy. And I know the counter. I know what everybody would say. I know what Griff would probably even say is that we're going to be kidding me. You got Drew Holiday, you got Lonzo. Like, why do we need another guard in there? But when your team isn't that good and we still don't know what the wings are, like, I just wouldn't draft for need in this kind of draft. And the chances are half these Pelicans guys aren't even going to be on the team in 2 years. So I would take Garland. But whenever somebody says, well, you should trade the 4th pick for veteran help, it's pretty good. Any really good, not superstar, but any pretty good veteran who's stable and happy in his situation, those guys don't really get moved. And I don't even know if the 4th pick in this year's draft is enough for it. So somebody would have to give me a list of potential trade partners and say, hey, here's this great trade. It makes sense for the Pelicans. This other team likes Garland that much, maybe, but I'm just not hearing the matches as of now.
Yeah, I think Garland's interested, too, because the injury that you mentioned, it almost maybe drives his value up a little bit because he could be a bit undervalued compared to what his potential may be. I want to pick your brain a little more on this trade, Ryan, because the recent, so another day of headlines, another day of Laker and Anthony Davis talk, except now it's all about the Lakers kind of scrambling, right? The deal's supposed to get done on July 6th. They want to push it back to the 30th. They're trying to get rid of Anthony Davis's like $4 million trade kicker or whatever. They're trying to move these other contracts. It has the feel like the Lakers didn't fully know what was going to happen to the cap when they agreed to this deal. Like, is that accurate?
No, I don't. I disagree with that strongly. Sorry to sound so terse, but they know when they bring him in what's happening. Now, the thing, okay, maybe I should backtrack a bit. They had to have known the difference between agreeing it to on July 6th and then agreeing to it later on. But that's what I thought they had paid for. Why throw in all these other unprotected things if you're not going to ask the Pelicans to delay this whole thing, which messes with the Pelicans cap space a bit. And I could see the Pelicans saying, like, no, we're not conceding anything. But that should have been agreed to ahead of time. So that might be the only thing that I think could have been confusing. But as far as just adding up the numbers and going, hey, LeBron plus AD plus these three guys on the roster equals this, and then this is what the cap is, and this is what practical cap space could be, and if we get tricky, I'd have to think they knew that part of it. The Davis waiving the trade clause thing, it's $4 million free dollars that the Pelicans have to pay, but it goes on the Lakers cap sheet. So I don't know why he would turn that down. And even though you could say, well, maybe the agency, because it's clutch, would want him to turn it down because then it helps LeBron and it helps build out more depth. I think that's the exact reason why Clutch won't want him to waive the trade clause, because people are going to think that they did that thing. So them being in that 23 to say with the trade kicker, 28 million to be in that cap space range, which is just shy of where they'll need to be for some of these other guys. I don't think that's like, oh my God, we did this trade and we didn't know that. I think it's just trying to figure out a way of figuring out who wants to go there, what that market will be, if Kemba takes shorter money in the first year or something like that. So I don't think it's an absolute surprise. I would I guess concede a bit that it seems weird that we're 4 days removed from the trade and we still don't know if it were hammered out on what date it should actually take place.
I mean, what's really come to light to me in all of this is how incredibly Byzantine the NBA CBA can be, and like all the little sub rules and everything else. It's pretty wild.
That I completely agree with. It doesn't. No one has ever explained to me why it needs to be this complicated.
Yeah.
Now, almost every rule is some way. It's kind of like this. Like if you were a millionaire, like let's not say self-made. Say you get some sort of trust fund before you get to. Although T-Bob, you were pretty loaded when you were walking.
Well, I mean, I love it. Yeah, perfect.
So,
prime example.
But if you were a kid that somehow just had access to your own money, it's for some whatever inheritance or some weird thing, and you showed up to college, but you got a credit card with like a $20,000 limit, that's a good thing. Like it means that, despite what I'm able to do, I have to put in some limitations. And that's what every one of these rules basically comes back to, is that the owners need to put things in place to prevent themselves from letting their competitiveness get the better of them and them doing all sorts of things that they don't want to do. But it's really frustrating for fans, and it's even frustrating for me at times, because there's times I think I know it, and then it's like, no, actually, if you do this and then this and carry the two, like, oh, okay, got it.
We're talking to Ryen Russillo at Ryen Russillo on Twitter, like Drew said, catch the podcast. And Ryan, when we started this new version of Off the Bench a couple years ago, we got Boogie Cousins not too far in. I told you it was launching the Pelicans to the top of the Western Conference. You told me I was wrong, and time proved to be your ally. But this time, Lonzo Ball, Josh Hart, Brandon Ingram. I love the fit with Ball and Holiday. You got Zion coming in. Are the Pelicans, maybe not next year, but a couple years later, are we talking about a legitimate playoff team now?
Playoffs, absolutely. I think Zion's that special.
Nice.
It's not just the numbers. It's not the dunks. When he first started off, I was going, okay, I haven't watched him in high school. I've watched clips, and I didn't know how well-rounded of a player he was. And in the beginning, it was like, okay, there's something here. And then as the season progressed, which is my favorite thing with, like, special players. This happened with Embiid, too, where you go, oh, my God, like a month later, this guy's a different guy because he's figured out all these things, and he's playing at this much higher level. And, I mean, physically, I don't need to add anything to the conversation about him, but he started figuring things out, and his passing alone and the way he competes, and then everybody falls in love with him. Those of us that still feel like, I never played in a game anybody ever cared about, but I look at some of the coverage of sports today and I go, do you even like sports? What the hell are you talking about? Like, do you like a team? Did you ever like a guy? Like, why is everything in sports suck? Why is everything the worst? Why does everything change by people that seem to be talking about sports all the time? I think they just like being on TV. And so when Zion has this, weird kind of mild injury, and then everyone's saying he should never come back because they hate the NCAA. That's really what it was about. It wasn't about Zion. It was about their own argument about the NCAA. And he's like, hey, I just want to come back and ball, beat UMC, and win an ACC title, and maybe win a national championship. And every interview he did, guys, I loved him. So, he needs to fix his shot, but I really think he's that special. So if he is that, we'll probably figure that out quickly, and then he'll make an even bigger leap in year 2. And then you go, okay. And then year 5, if he hasn't won anything, then people can be on First Take saying he's overrated, sucks, and isn't a leader. And we can put him through the cycle that we do with everybody else that's young, has a ton of promise, and doesn't win a championship, according to our timeline. But I'm pumped. Like, as bad as it was for this Davis thing for that fan base that I like so much down there, this is kind of like forgetting Sarah Marshall, where he's dating the TV star, and then she's with Russell Brand, and then all of a sudden that Mila chick is totally into him, and it's like, okay, like this worked. That's what happened to the Pelicans.
Absolutely.
So, that's one of my top 5 favorite comedies of all time, too. I think you nailed it, Ryan. Great job.
What's the shining?
He shouldn't have been that depressed. Like, he went on an epic run right after he got dumped, and it was like, I get that you missed somebody, but at the same time, like, according to this script, things like this is going better for you than it's gone for a lot of dudes.
Well, he had a great job, do the music for the TV shows and everything. He had the nice puppet musical he's working on, but he was in love. He was in love. Shout out to Jason Segel, getting to show us a side of him, though, that maybe many don't see. It's a nice little humble brag by Segel there.
Yeah, I don't know what you're saying there.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, that's fine. Yeah, you can plead the fifth. Yeah. That's cool.
Ryan, tell me the shining piece from the Lakers coming down to New Orleans. What should New Orleans fans be excited about with the trade?
I like Lonzo. I do. He's a weird player. It's not perfect. He can't shoot. The free throw thing is a problem, but he is a terrific defensive player, and he is so good as a team defender. He's so smart. I remember going back, and you know how Kentucky fans can be, but when it was the Lonzo De'Aaron Fox thing, and everybody's like, "Oh, De'Aaron Fox lit him off. He couldn't guard and all this stuff." I went back and watched it so many times. I tweeted about it incessantly, trying to prove to people that they were all wrong, and that a lot of De'Aaron Fox, as great as he was, he's awesome. It wasn't that he just ate up Lonzo. It was collectively like a bad job by the team, but it wasn't one. Because what I'm saying is, Lonzo, you're going to be surprised how smart he is as a player. He's also this. He's not like this constant dribble drive point guard who's just dishing out assists to everybody. It's sometimes the hockey pass. It's the first pass that sets up the other pass. He is a special player when it comes to how he sees the game. But he's got to stay healthy, which he hasn't. His dad has to get out of his business. His dad has made this far more difficult for this kid's career to get off. And, people in the beginning want to be like, oh, he's supportive, back off, and this is a man who's trying to build his own thing, back off. You're like, no, he's a total pain. And he's bombastic, and it's not really even like the Lakers were over it, man. I remember asking some of the Lakers, I go, how bad is this? They go, is it a little overstated? And they go, no, it's bad.
No, it's as bad as it looks.
It would just be great if he let his kid try to carve out his own career and get back on the track of being a really nice point guard in this league, because it's been up and down, it's been all over the place. So that's the piece that I like the most. Ingram's very hit or miss. I liked him more coming out. Even though he's skinny, he's actually tough. He'll play into contact, but he's kind of become this weird mid-range settling player who's really, really big. And I haven't checked like the latest numbers, so I could be off on some of the shot chart stuff. And then there were stretches where he ran point, where he played point. He actually looked a little bit better. So it's not that he's not skilled. I'm fearful that Brandon Ingram on a good team isn't a big-time scoring option, yet he's good enough on a bad team to put up big points.
Last one here with Ryen Russillo, your favorite NBA mind, noted forgetting Sarah Marshall fan. Ryan, in the darkest part of my heart, I'm excited to watch Anthony Davis and LeBron James together. Where does that team rank in the hierarchy? Like, how good can those two be?
Well, I thought Vegas lost their minds a little bit making them a favor, but that's also, remember, Vegas getting ready for the onslaught of that.
Yeah.
That number is more reflective. They're not sitting there. Vegas is too smart. They're not sitting around looking at everybody's roster going, well, 2 guys and whatever, a bunch of question marks. They're winning an NBA championship.
Windows open, suckers.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
It's a reflection of the momentum on that bet. But Utah is going to be even better with Conley. I love that trade for the Jazz. Yeah. OKC, even though I don't really like them, like, what are they supposed to be scared of? I mean, other than Westbrook's decision-making at the end of the games. Houston, even with all of this turmoil, you realize that this thing almost worked the last 2 years. It still almost worked. They would have lost to Toronto. I think they would have beaten Cleveland, won an NBA title last summer. Denver is in the mix. Portland is in the mix. And if 2 of their younger players get better, they'll be even better once Jokic finally gets back. So there's all of these other teams that I actually know right now what's more established. But you know what I don't like doing is power rankings before the draft and then before free agency. July. I don't think there's any version of these transactions that makes the Lakers the clear favorite, especially when something's new. But those two guys, if healthy, are going to be awesome together. And now it's up to Pelinka to do the hard work. The easy part was having LeBron move to L.A. The easy part was knowing that Anthony Davis was basically telling everybody, don't trade for me because I'm only going to L.A. The hard part is figuring out the rest of that roster. And he and Magic did an awful job with that last year. It didn't even make any sense. And I'm telling you, in the moment, watching the transactions happen, going, what are you guys doing?
Lance!
Come on down. Thank you, man. Enjoy the draft tonight.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thanks, man.